Hi, this is Christine for Trinity Stamps. Today we're going to make a card, but first I'd like to show you a new product that Trinity has in their store. They're the Blendabilities brushes, and they are fantastic. I plan to make a video next week where I'm going to use them a lot more. I discovered something that makes me very excited in using them. I actually made a happy mistake, like Bob Ross would say, and it created a background that was I love. So I'm going to play around with them quite a bit more, and I will publish a video with that next week. So here are the different sizes. You get 5 brushes in the set, and here they all are. I'm going to show you a little bit how well they work. This is the first time I'm using the brushes. I only have the foam circle pads to put on color, but I'm very excited about these. They also stand up, which is pretty nice and handy, so they don't take up a lot of space in your crafting area. So I'm going to use a Distress Oxide ink and a stencil from My Favorite Things to make clouds. So I'm going to show you first with the brush from Trinity. So you can have a heavy hand like I'm using here, or you can use a light hand to create a lighter background. But the thing that's amazing is that it's kind of effortless. I have always had some difficulty in making backgrounds with the foam pads that I will use in a little bit. And honestly, with these Trinity brushes, Blendabilities, it's just really effortless. You just have to keep in mind whether you want to have a heavy hand with it or really a light hand. And the light hand takes some getting used to because I'm pretty used to putting a heavy hand on the foam pad that I'm going to use in a moment. So again, I'm putting some heavy-handedness on this section, and I will show you a little bit later that you can do it with a light hand. So now I'm going to show with the foam handle. If you just go right away to the paper, it's pretty splotchy and puts color in an area that you might not want. Usually you have to tap it off, which I'm going to do in a moment, and it's taken me some time to really get used to it. So that's not at all, it's pretty heavy-handed and doesn't look like what I'd like it to look. So usually you have to tap it off and start swirling it already before you actually take it to whatever area of the paper you want the color on. And it's nice, but it is more effort, I feel, and it took me. I've gotten better at it now. So here you can just tap on the color, and if you use a light hand, you can make a light border. So there's no need to like tap it off, move it, put some color on the side. You can just take a light hand to it, and it'll create a perfect background. So I'm really excited to get these. I don't even think I'm going to use those foam circles anymore. So for this project, I'm making, again, a card that has an area for a votive candle. So you have to use, I'm using vellum to make a square area here. You have, this is a 3 by 8.5 section of heavy vellum, and I've notched it off at every 2 inches, and there's a 1/2 inch overhang. So this would go inside the card, as you see here. So that's my card base. And it's going to form a square and can then fold over and be flat. And then when you open it up, as you'll see later, you have an area to put a votive candle. So here, I want to make it more exciting inside and not just have the candle. So I'm going to do a whole background. And I'm using the Castle Builder dies from Trinity. I've cut off part, and I need a longer piece, so you just kind of wiggle the die back in a spot and die cut it, as I've done here, and it's not absolutely perfect. There's a little area of imperfection there that I was just showing, but that doesn't bother me at all. So I'm going to score right in the middle because part of this is going to adhere to the votive candle, the vellum, and the other part is going to adhere to the card base. So here I'm scoring it halfway through, which is at the A2 spot, or 4 and a quarter inch. So I'm actually going to put some heavy, strong stick double-sided tape and then adhere this to the vellum so I know it's very secure. And I want to make it taller than it would be because I actually have a large figure that I want to use. So I'm actually going to adhere it on the very bottom of the vellum so that I can get my figure in there nicely. And I'm trying to line it up, the middle piece with the middle. And I've notched it every 2 inches, except for one area that has, so you see here, it can fold then over. I'm going to have it fold over like that and adhere to the card base, and then those other 2 ends sticking out with also adhere to the card base. So this is kind of in the end what it'll look like, and there's a spot for a candle in there. I like cards that you can do something else with. Either they're interactive or there's some other use for them once the recipient has opened the card. So I decided I'm using some Gina K black amalgam ink, which is Copic safe, and I'm stamping on some vellum. And this is Dumbledore from the Wizard Friends. Stamp set from Trinity. And I'm going to stamp it again because part of it is not perfectly stamped, so I'm inking it up again, just making sure it's good, and then just re-stamping that part that didn't quite look perfect enough. So it's important to let this completely dry. Either you dry it with a heat tool, or just let it sit on the side before you die cut it or color it. And I did that behind the scenes. I actually used my heat tool to completely dry it before I die cut it, or I'm going to color it as well with Copics. So here I've done partial die cutting because I actually want Dumbledore to hold the candle. So what you do is you just cut it up to a certain point because that saves me from fussy cutting it all around, and then I'm just going to fussy cut the last bit, as you can see here, and I've colored it in as well. These are the Copics I used. I used some, it's important to know when you color on vellum, you've got to use stronger colors, darker colors than you would ordinarily on paper. So I'm just sort of placing everything where I'm going to put it. I have Hogwarts behind there. I've now stamped and put some embossing powder with some stamps that were in the Magical Wizards set. They just make it look a little bit more magical. And now I'm just drying it with my heat gun, or melting it rather with my heat gun. And this is heavy vellum, it can take it. I have not had success with any other vellum besides this, and I'm sure there's some other brand out there, but I use the Bazil heavyweight vellum. So I'm just checking it out to make sure it's all good. So now I'm going to finally start adhering my pieces. Here's Hogwarts, which I die cut out of the Castle Builder die set from Trinity. And technically Dumbledore is bigger, so I'm putting him really close to the front so it looks like off in the distance is Hogwarts. And he's holding a candle. So now I'm going to adhere this closed with some strong double stick tape. To make a rectangle, and there we go. And I'm just going to play around with it a little bit just to get it looking really good. And now I want to adhere the whole thing to the card base. So I'm going to put a lot of tape just on the vellum portion down there. You don't want to put it on the grass portion right beneath the vellum because you want that part to move. So just the back of this piece, I'm adhering quite a bit of vellum so it stays put. And I probably did overkill, but that's okay. So now I'm trying to make sure it fits on everywhere it's supposed to, checking out that the middle crease is towards the middle, and I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. I want it that when the card is closed, it is flat like this. You'll see me opening and closing it. That's exactly how I want it. So that when it's opened, the card base almost forms a stand for it. So now I'm happy with the way it looks. I'm going to adhere the grassy area on each side to the card base. Okay. I'm just pressing down just to make sure. And it's quite flat. It really doesn't add a whole lot of bulk. So I was pretty happy with that. So now I want to put a large sentiments in the inside of the card because I'm hoping that the recipient will put a candle in there and use it quite often. So I really want a nice sentiment in there. And I also wanted to add some more color here. I felt it was too white, so I'm making a little bit of a sky background, and I've sped it up because it takes takes a lot of time if we would watch it in normal speed. So just creating background. And as you can tell, I'm still not used to using these brushes. I literally just started using them for this video, so I have still the tendency to tap off the color when you really don't need to. So it's gonna Take me a little while, but I'm going to adhere magical, and it says on this thing, wishing you a magical new year. Here, I was thinking about it more, and I added, I didn't tap off the color. I used the lighter hand, and then I really wanted it to be darker. And it's a little variable, but I actually like that. Unfortunately, I don't have a Harry Potter novel to cut up because we only have our copies, and I'm not going to cut those up because I've reread them, my daughter has reread them, we're huge Harry Potter fans, so I'm using different paper that doesn't have anything to do with Harry Potter, but that's okay. I'm adhering a previously colored Dumbledore and a fox to the front of the card. And that's my front. And then the inside is really going to have the sentiment instead of the front of the card, but that's okay. So wishing you a magical new year. And I'm just going to adhere it to the card base. Again, I've used strong double-sided stick tape. And that's the finished card. So I'm going to show you now that a tea light or a small votive candle can fit in there, just like that. And here's the final product with the candle on. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed it.